Welcome to Slasher Sunday. Tonight I'm going to be covering The Midnight Meat Train, which I haven't seen since it was released. This is before I even knew who the hell Bradley Cooper was, and I remember being whatever about this movie when it had come out. I had some problems with it, and blah, 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 so it wasn't a film I ever went back to revisit. And I heard this being talked about on the Exploding Heads horror podcast. And I was like, you know what, man, this is a movie I need to revisit. And I was really unsure if this was actually a slasher movie or not. And I think that there's enough slasher elements in this to call it a slasher film. So if anyone is like, oh, I don't think this is a slasher movie. Well, I'm a slasher fucking expert, people. I have a Slasher Sunday show. That qualifies, right? Right? But yeah, I think it's very slasher. Vinnie Jones's character in this movie, who says one fucking word, welcome. He's a slasher, 100%. So I don't see how anyone wouldn't consider this a slasher, but it is what it is. All right. So with A Star Is Born being as popular as it is right now as well, it's projecting Bradley Cooper more into my my mind as of late. So when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh man, I really need to rewatch that. So the opening here, we got the guy waking up on the train, and there is a murder going on. Now, the whole idea of a train murder, this is much like a plane or a bridge or something that, there is no right, there is no left. There is just a straight path forward or backwards, and, it's end capped, like it's an island. And there's just, it's terrifying to think about, because you can't jump off the fucking train, you'll die. This subway is going so fast, you couldn't jump off. This guy wakes up, he doesn't know where, he can't get out of there. Once the train's going, he's fucked. He's got to fight this guy who's this monster, and can't be defeated. And it's terrifying. I mean, the thought of this. I remember thinking about this movie when I first rented it, and I was like, come on, man. Like, this whole thing takes place, like, on a train like this. Like, how does this all work? But rewatching it, it's pretty cool, man. Obviously, being based on a Clive Barker story, I know that's what probably made a lot of people gravitate towards this one, but I'm honestly not the biggest Clive Barker fan. I know. Shame. Freaking Brad Thornton, who's my co-host, Nightbreed's his favorite fucking movie. I'm not a huge fan of stuff like this for some reason, like Hellraiser. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like Nightbreed. I like Hellraiser. I like Book of Blood. I've liked Rawhead Rex. I've liked a lot of... It's not that I dislike Clive Barker movies or Lord of Illusions or anything. I like them. I just don't love them. I don't think there's any Clive Barker inspired movie that I outright just love. I don't know. It just, yeah. I'm not sure why. I can't really put my finger on it. But we also got Leslie Bibb in here. And she plays the girlfriend, right? I don't think they're married. No, they're not. And the friend is the dude from Hostel 2. That's how I'll always remember this guy. He's spoilers for Hostel 2 here. He's the brother who doesn't want, or it's a brother, right? It's his brother, not his friend. I think it's his brother. Might be his buddy. Can't remember. But the buddy's all excited about it, and the friend's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And then at the end, like when it finally comes down to it, the friend's like, I don't want anything to do with this, and he's, turns into a psychopath. I fucking love Hostels. I don't know what people's problems with those movies are. They're awesome. And him going and becoming this photographer, he's not becoming a photographer, but going down to try to become this recognized photographer and talking to this hoity-toity fucking art expert critic bullshit. Ironic, seeing as how I just called myself a slasher expert. I was mostly kidding. I mean, I definitely think I know more about slashers than most people. I can only assume there's people out there that know more about slashers than I do. But they're very few, I can imagine. But just these people who take themselves so fucking seriously. I don't know why anyone would want to appease these kinds of people. I know you want to have that name and it's the, allure of all of it and whatnot. It's just, it does nothing for me. I can't take anything too seriously. So like these people who critique art and it's cool if they say it's cool. It's like, no, fuck that, dude. Like, I like my pictures. I'm proud of them. I'm going to display them. I wouldn't make a living, obviously. You got to do this to make a living. But I could not deal with those kinds of people. Like the friend introduces and he's just like, don't tell her about your girlfriend, blah, blah. It's fuck that. I mean, the first thing, as soon as he said that, the first thing, walk up and be like, oh man, I wish my girlfriend could have been here tonight. You know, the one I want to marry? Like, no, you don't tell me what to do. That's why I'll be broke forever or something. I ain't giving into shit. But anyway, so she tells him like his pictures essentially suck and he wants to capture New York. He needs to be way more risky about it. He needs to be like a war photographer who's going to run down in there and take shit in the muck of it all. And so he does. And he goes and he tries to look at this dark underbelly of the city at night. And he watches this girl, this model that's about to get raped. And he's real ballsy about it, of course. He goes and he takes pictures of them doing it. Then he says, hey. And then he's like, you want to be on camera? You want to be in a movie or something? And these guys, don't then just kill him right there on the spot. So he got real lucky there. But he wants this so bad that I think he's willing to die for it. That, like, his obsession with this. And yes, once he's marked, then it becomes a whole different thing. It's more supernatural or something at that point. But before he even meets Vinnie Jones's character, he wants this more than life. And more than a wife, I think, as this progresses as well. And here's another thing. This is a little bit of an irony thing that if you think about it, you're like, oh, this is fucked up. If he wouldn't have stopped that rape from happening, now, they may have killed her. These might be the kinds of guys that rape and kill. They might not just be the kinds of guys that rape and then leave. There's two different kinds of rapists, people. There's people who let you leave with your life, and there's people who don't. So if these guys were the rape and release... rape and release. Oh man, I'm a terrible human being making rape jokes. All right. If these guys are... if he fucking stopped this rape from happening, she caught the train that ended her life. So essentially, him being the hero in that moment cost this girl her life. She ended up getting killed by making the train. It was like the sliding doors, right? You guys ever see that movie? She makes the train, she doesn't make the train. It's an interesting science fiction romance kind of film about what could have been a butterfly effect, one little change. Anyway, we're not here to talk about fucking sliding doors with Gwyneth Paltrow. And what I don't understand here, though, is how she made it into the paper the next day. Okay, as far as I'm aware, they print the morning paper at like 3 a.m. In the report with the cop. Yes, I'm critiquing cop work, which I usually do on my channel, but I always on my podcast, but I do it on my channel all the time. She talks to him, and she, the last place she was seen was at a nightclub that she left after 2 a.m. So when he saw her, and when he wakes up, it's late. I can't remember what the time says, but it's really late. It's past 2 for sure. So how her disappearance made the paper in the morning? No, absolutely not. It might have made, if this was modern day, he would be on his phone and an update. The news can actually be news now. You don't have to wait till the morning paper the next day to catch your news. But I just thought that was funny. I was like, how'd she make the paper? And then he tells the police, and the police flip it on him because we find out at the end of this that the police are in on this too, or at least this agent specifically. The odds that he went to this specific one, but maybe because he said it was in that train area that she like overheard and took the case because she protects him from that stuff. I don't know. I haven't read the story, so maybe that's in there and explains how she became part of this case. Or maybe there's more cops. I don't know. But he does make himself pretty guilty. And I feel like the question that he stumbles on, he could have easily explained away. Or, you know, explained, you know, what he was doing out, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, they'll like sell the pictures thing. He could have said, I was taking the pictures as evidence that these guys were going to rape her, and then I used the camera to be like, hey, I got you on camera. It would have been a very easy explanation, but he stumbles, and then she's like, you look guilty, and then he takes that as like, oh, well, the cops aren't going to listen to me from this point on, so now I got to go rogue. I just feel like it would have very easily explainable, because it kind of is that. And then she asks him, like the one thing she asks him, he straight up lies about it. He's like, you want to sell these, don't you? And it's like, yes, that's exactly what he's about to go do with them. But she meant to the paper or the press or whatever, but no. I do feel like if he did try to publish those in an art gallery or whatever, that those would be, you know, taken by the cops as evidence. I would only assume. Unless they already gave out the prints, but I don't think you can give out those kinds of pictures in an active police investigation that would play into evidence. So I'm overthinking it as usual, but and this is a private thing. Maybe those pictures aren't seen by the general public. I don't know. Now then, the next three people who were murdered on the train, one of them's Ted Raimi, right? That was definitely Ted Raimi. His eyeball gets popped out and it's awful. The CGI on that is terrible, and I don't care, man. Like, look at the eyeball in, you know, Friday the 13th there, part 3, where the eyeball comes at the screen. It's terrible, right? I prefer that one all fucking day over this CGI one. Now, I've said this on my channel and I've said this on my podcast a trillion times. I'm going to reiterate this a million times. I'm not against CGI at all. I'm just against, or no, I shouldn't say at all, that was stupid. I'm not against CGI. I'm against bad CGI, especially in horror. Like, keep it out of this stuff. Keep it out of gore. Unless you can perfect it and it looks perfectly real, then whatever, go for it. But in a scene like this, and I get what they were going for. I don't know if this was supposed to be seen in 3D or not, because that definitely played like a 3D kill. But it's so bad. It's just so bad. And I like that the director wanted to show it, because a lot of fucking people would just, you know, cut away a lot of times. But he really wanted to show his gore and his graphic violence on screen. It's just unfortunate it had to be CGI. Maybe they did a practical effect there, and they had to CGI over it because this fucking practical got a R rating, or an NC-17 rating. I don't know. I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, should I say? Anyway, but yeah, and then the other girl gets her head knocked off, which we get to see that from POV, which is really cool. She looks up in POV. The hammer hits her. The meat tenderizer, which is a really cool weapon for a slasher villain to have, hits her. Somehow it knocks her head off. Sure, why not? And her head rolls, and we see it from POV. Her head rolling. Then it like. The camera pans out of her POV, shows her decapitated head, which her decapitated head looks great. And then it spins back to her body, and it shows it all from the angle and shows her face looking at her body. That's a great sequence. Awesome. And why that's all practical and the CGI one isn't, I don't get it. But, you know, the director had a vision, I suppose, and he was sticking to it no matter what. Yeah, oh no, I already said all that bullshit. Oh, the eyes blinking too on the severed head. Sure, why not? I like how Vinnie Jones' character here goes to a meat factory dressed sharp as fuck, man. He is like this Wall Street guy, but he goes to, I guess he just can't get enough. He's practicing his craft, I suppose. He's got to keep his mind busy by cutting up other life forms besides humans. Keeps him sharp. He's a sharp dressed man and a sharp killer with a sharp knife. No, he uses a mallet. And then he goes and he waits for his train, because once he gets off work, he just goes straight to the train and he just sits there and he doesn't even fucking move for hours until his train arrives for him. No one wants to sit next to the guy. No one wants to have anything to do with the guy. Vinnie Jones has that look, man. He's just fucking nuts. He has that crazy ass look in his eye. Ever since I saw him back in like Lock, Stock, and all those movies, Snatch and whatnot. Oh man, he's great. He's such a great, intimidating presence on screen. And then we get to see him in the fight with the Guardian Angel there on the train. Those guys that patrol around. They have chapters all around the world, but New York, though, I think that's where they originated from, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Remind me if I am. Or correct me, should I say. And yeah, he puts up a good fight with him, which is cool, but then he gets fucking hoodwinked there, man. He gets shot by the conductor. It sucks. It's like he actually was giving him a pretty damn good fight. I'm not sure why, if he's a guardian angel, that he goes and intimidates him by like pretending to like gonna throw a punch at him. It's like a guy who's out there who's trying to protect people is then fucking with people and being a bully. It just doesn't fit the guardian angels of what I would expect. I don't know. I could be completely off base here, but it just didn't. It seemed out of character for someone like that, but whatever. And then Bradley Cooper's character here has a freaking dream sequence here. After fucking his girlfriend super hard. I want to say, did that happen? Yeah. I must have missed it. Oh, yeah. No, yeah. So, no, he has his dream sequence, yeah. And he's on the train. He sees himself already. I guess he was prophesized to be this. Once he sees him, he's already being taken over as the new one. Because he has this vision right after. He doesn't even have to be marked first. And he hadn't even seen any of this stuff yet. He didn't see the bodies to my memory. He hadn't seen any of this stuff yet. So he was dreaming very specifically and becoming the butcher on the train at this point. So, yeah, I don't know how, whatever. It's supernatural. There's your answer. And then we get the Vinnie Jones cutting off the legions on his body. These fucking like, these little, whatever the hell, I don't even know what the hell to call these little growths on his skin, but he's just cutting them off and puts them in a little jar in his medicine cabinet there. I don't know if he like eats them later or what. Not sure what the hell he does with those things, but and I'm not sure what that is. Is that the price of aging? Like he's 100 years old or something because he finds that paper of the butcher. She's like, "What, you think this is him?" But it's like maybe that was him. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just another guy like him, and they just keep getting replaced over and over. I don't know. I don't know if that's explained in the book or if I missed it in the film, but I don't know. Anyway, so then after his vision, he wants steak. No more tofu for him. And he goes all conspiracy theorist on him. And then he just starts losing it, man. And he's losing his girlfriend. He's losing everything, which is really sad because this movie ends dark as fuck, which you don't see in these movies a ton. And then Vinnie Jones preps all the bodies for these guys. It's kind of like, a prep cook, right? Takes all the bones out. He deveins the shrimp. He does everything. Gets all the crud out of the way so that they can just feast. You think he would want them to like skin them and have them and all this shit, but no. He just has to like pluck out their eyes and shave all the hair off of them so they don't have to eat through any of that. Yeah, I thought that was really cool that he actually preps them for the monsters here at the end. I think that was another thing I had a problem with in the first viewing was like that the monsters all of a sudden were revealed, but it makes sense. Watching the film now the second time with all the prophecies and him, seeing these visions and the markings and like why would he be doing this and how could he cover this up and the conductor's in on it and all that stuff. Like it does give you some kind of subtlety. Yes, it's out of control at the end. You're like, what the fuck? It turns into the scent. But now knowing it was coming, it really worked for me this time. And the first time I was like, what? This is fucking crazy. Which I'm, such a fan of crazy. I'm not sure why I didn't love it as much. Oh well. And yeah, then he carves a symbol into him, so he's marked and he's getting him ready, which I don't know. Like, did they tell him to mark him? because then he tries to kill him later. Like, I guess he does what he's told, and they're like, he's the one, mark him. And then I guess he was just trying to retain his spot after that. And it's like, well, if you can kill him, you can keep the job, but he's the next one if you can't. I don't know. But he waits to fight him on the train. Or maybe when he sees him, he's like, my chance. I don't know. Maybe he's off limits unless he's on the train. That's where he can do his killing, maybe. Because I don't think, he doesn't kill the friend. He only abducts him there. So no, I don't think he does any killing in this movie outside the train. Maybe that's like his jurisdiction for killing. I'm way overthinking things. But yeah, anyone who read the book, let me know. Or the short story, or whatever the hell this is based on. And the friend and the girlfriend, break into this house, friend's taken. I like how she runs in, just grabs his gun and runs out, and he's like, what the fuck? The other guy, the guy who runs the diner. I liked his character when he's going off with him about the tofu being on his grill, and it's like, really? Like, tofu? I don't think, maybe New Yorkers, red-blooded Americans would be like, gross, I don't want that shit touching my grill. But in reality, dude, it would be, you can't cook food of yours in a grill like that. It is completely against codes. I used to work in restaurants. You cannot bring in your own food to cook. It is 100% against the rules. Although in a little shit joint like that, I guess they don't really give a fuck. You ever watch like Kitchen Nightmares? They're not really all about, living up to the rules. And yeah, so they go, and of course the cops don't believe, and then the cop is in on it, as we know, and then Bradley Cooper sees his girlfriend on there after he goes and he gets armor. Okay, he goes and he actually gets armor. He puts on like the chainmail stuff here in the show. I was like, all right, man, smart thinking. And so he goes and he sees his girlfriend, and he makes this like fucking action movie jump onto the train where he uses like the meat hook to clasp. It's ridiculous, but it's fun. And then they get into this huge fight around all the dead bodies, which is a really cool action set piece. And the pieces are knocked off, and he like grabs an arm off the guy, and they start fighting with it, and that was cool. Just all the dead bodies, and the friend is alive there, and he's getting cut up, and you think he's gonna save him, and it's like, no, he just leaves him there, and then they fucking drag him off, and he's not screaming for some reason, and they fucking eat him. Like that guy, you think he's gonna get saved, something's gonna happen with him, and it's like, nope, he just leaves him hung up there, and it's like stuck through his foot, and he's hanging from it, and she tries to like pick him up, and he falls back down. It reminds me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, where she's trying to pull him up off the hook, and he falls. Oh, so gnarly, man. You'd be so sore at that point. It would just be unbelievable, blackout. But now, as much as I don't like the CGI and a lot of stuff, this guy had a vision. He wanted it reminds me of the fight scene in The Raid 2, when the camera is going in and out of the car and being, hung around there so the fight can go in, out. It's the same thing with this fight sequence on the train. It's going around the train, in, out, circling through the doors. I thought it was really cool for sure, but the CGI brings it down a little bit. That's all right though. It was a neat idea. And then the subway. I like the subway because they're underground and whatever. And just to think that there's this one train that goes to hell, essentially. It goes down into the deepness of the this myth, this secret that lives beneath the world, and this guy is keeping the secret at bay by feeding these things so they don't come out into the world. It's like the treaty they've made. Like, we'll feed you, we'll keep you docile down here, and as long as we give you the bodies, like, you're not going to come up back to the real world and show them what really is happening. And then fucking he goes over and kills his girlfriend. Woo! And she fucking stabs her and rips her fucking heart out, and it's like beating in his hand. It's gnarly. They cut his tongue out. I guess that's why Vinnie Jones can't speak. He does say welcome though, and he's not like welcome. I guess they were probably afraid he would sound mentally handicapped if they tried to make him talk without a tongue. But I don't know. I would assume he doesn't have a tongue because they cut Bradley Cooper's out, so he wouldn't either. I don't know. And yeah, we do it to keep him secret. So that's how it ends. It just, it ends with him with the Vinnie Jones haircut. I guess you have to have a specific look. You have to look like a businessman who needs to be on the train, right? No one's gonna ask questions. No one's gonna question the sharp-dressed man. This was a fun watch. I dug it. It was better than I remember. It was more graphic than I remember. Cut the CGI out, and it would have been much better, honestly. It hurts it, but not enough to the point where I wouldn't say fucking watch it. I mean, hopefully if you're watching this, you've seen it, but if I'm just convincing you, it's a cool fucking slasher movie with a unique spin on it. And performances are great. The the budget is good. It looks good. It's a high production value. It's worth your time if you have not seen it. Other than that, guys, Slasher Sunday out. Good night.